Welcome to Magic Arena video. So I've been with all the cards I've collected over when I started playing it years ago, and then with some of the free packs that come with playing, and you get gems and all that stuff. Uh, I've come up with my favorite cards um, that I've been like play majority of the time in my decks, depending on the theme. So, um, I have to kind of switch me around here, but let's start with a quarters shield. What's great about this one is that it's an equipment that's zero drop, so it doesn't cost you anything to put down. It does cost you three to equip, but it buffs one of your creatures to give them a bit more toughness than usual. This is for if you have like a defender, let's say, and it's like 0-2 or 0-3, you plop this down, it's now 0-6. Um, you could also put this on creatures that attack, so that way, the opposing player has to kind of either, um, you know, buff their blockers, attack, or have a removal card to get rid of the creature that's buffed like this. So it's mainly for defensive purposes. I like to use it, especially when I'm having a defender kind of deck. If I have any of those in there, I want to buff them up a little bit. So the Mox Opal is a zero drop and does add one color, mana of any color, but the only caveat to this is you have to have three or more artifacts for this to actually work. Um, it is legendary, so you can only have one of these in play, but still, zero drop for one mana of any color is pretty decent there. As you can see, it is not legal in certain formats. The Oppenhopter, a zero drop, 0-2 flyer. I mean, cheap as you can get. You can find cards that can buff it up if you're playing with like an enchantment or equipment type of deck, or you're got cards that, when you could use this as a blocker and just pop a card on it until end of turn and buff it up so that way it's able to block a flyer specifically. So you're not getting tagged by the flyer cards or what have you. So it's a zero cost. Great. If you get it first turn, you drop it down, you got a blocker right away. Authority of the consuls. It's a one white enchantment that basically every time an opponent, pulls a creature out, they enter tap. This cuts down on, any of these fast decks that have haste and attack right away. Plus, you gain life out of that. So it's more for like a slow down the other opponent kind of card. Cleric class, I only really use this for the top one, which is when you gain life, you gain that much +1. So this is like for all those life decks there where you want to buff up your life gain more quickly. You have four of these in play. That's like 4 plus, like even if you gain like one life, that's 5. It's pretty solid. Uh, Tactic Awakener. What's cool about this is that if you are making like a demon deck or you just want a buff creature early, pop this guy down. He's a 1/1. You sack another creature there. Could be anything you don't want. You draw a card on top of that, and then you basically transform him into a 4/4 demon. Really cool. They used to have they I don't see it in any of their collections, but they used to have a one black drop enchantment where I think it was if it was something either you took damage or you lost creatures, and if a certain amount reached that, the enchantment would basically turn into a 5/5 demon. Or no, 5/5 zombie, sorry. So I don't know, that's like from one old set long ago. But here you got a little bit more. If you want a 4/4 demon there, it's still decent. Given that this guy lasts and doesn't get blasted by the opponent right away. Fire magic. This is a very good card to damage creatures across the board, including your own, obviously. But if you want to get rid of, like, some of those annoying fast decks here, this is a really good card because it has 3 levels here. You do 1 damage to each creature, 2 damage to each creature, or 3 damage to each creature. So very good board wipe in case you need it. And this is specifically for like goblin deck or fast decks where they're dropping 2, 3 creatures a turn that have, like, minimal health. You just clear the board. Uh, Abriel Grazer. So it's a 1 green drop, and what's cool about this is you get it in your opening hand, you drop it down, and it basically you can put down 2 lands in 1 turn with this guy. And he's an 0/3 defend reach, so he can stop flyers. He's out there to basically be a blocker after that, or he could be a sacrificed creature for any of your spells that require such. Hero of Lena Tower. So whenever you cast a spell that targets that creature, so you're talking like equipment or auras, something like that, you may pay X. If you do, put X +1/+1 counters on it, so you can buff this guy really quick if you're going that way. The only caveat is you have to target it yourself. Ashra Cultivator. So basically, this is a creature that allows you to go search for a land and put it on the battlefield. So if you want to get land out quickly, in that type of situation, this is a good creature to use because it allows you to search for a land, get the land you want, and throw it on the battlefield really quick. It also can be used as a 0/3 defender if you wish. Utopia Sprawl, simply this is enchantment. You enchant a forest you have, and it just basically, when that forest taps, it gives you 2 instead of 1. So if you're doing an accelerated land drop, this is one card that's pretty good to use. This one's situational. So it is a 1-drop hammer, but it costs you 8 to equip to give a creature +10/+10. Obviously, you're not going to be using this card for a long while on a creature because it is costly to equip. But it is a fun little kind of, you know, puts the opponent in mind that, oh, they have this thing, they can equip this on some creature to buff it. Um, I don't use it that often, but it's still an interesting one to just kind of have some fun with. Janny's Pride Mate. So anytime you gain life, this creature gets +1/+1. This creature type has been around for a long time. It's just had different artworks through the sets. Still a damn good card. You gain life, you buff it. Given that it stays out there, it gets born more bigger and then can hit for very hard. Another thing with gaining life is anytime you gain it, you can pay 2 to draw a card with this enchantment. And also, this is an enchantment where you can start putting 1/1 white soldiers into play. This can combo with a lot of different things that, either use tokens or you sack a creature to do something. uh, you know, this card was very good. You can combine this with, like, I don't have them on the list here, but there are enchantments that and creatures that if you make tokens, it doubles the amount of tokens. So there's something to consider as well. Griffin Airy. So this is in connection with gaining life. You gain 3 in the turn, you create a 2/2 white griffin creature. So this is more or less for like gaining life, but throwing out basically a protector against incoming attacks. You have like four of these out, it gets pretty hairy. So, I mean, while they're out there, and haven't been destroyed, you could have some protectors, and you could even have some fun if the opposing player doesn't have anything that can block flyers. You can start attacking with these. Plus, if you have anything that can buff these tokens' attack power and toughness up, you're looking pretty good. Invisible Stalker. This card is actually quite an old one. Goes back many sets ago. What's good about this is that it has hexproof, so your opposing player can't cast anything on it, like casting something on it to stop it from attacking or blocking, or destroying it. And it can't be blocked. So this is the kind of card you're pumping your auras and everything into to like cause damage to the opposing player. You have a couple of these in there and make them buffed up. It's pretty dangerous for the opposing player. Maddening Cacophony. I am butchering that name. Each opponent mills 8 cards, and if you pay 3 blue more, they mill half their library. Very dangerous card for a mill deck. And this can be combined with one creature that is on my list here that doubles that. So you could double it from 8 to 16. So very devastating. This guy I like, Mystic Archaeologist. Don't use him too often because, well, you can pay to draw cards while he's in play. 2 cards, which is nice, but it's 5. So if you have the mana to spend, and card draw is very important. This is probably one you might look at. There are plenty of other cheaper ways to draw cards, but this is one that's kind of a constant thing where you can constantly do it while it's in play. Persistent Pioneer Pen, whatever. So this is an endless creature, meaning that it's infinite. You could have an infinite amount of these in your deck. What's cool about it is it's very good for a mill. So you tap 4 of these while they're in play, and they mill 12 cards. Again, in conjunction with the creature on here that doubles that can be 24. Very devastating. Plus, you could use these as blockers. They obviously can't block flyers, but they can block other stuff. So, yeah. Bitter Blossom. So as long as you're okay with losing life, at the beginning of your upkeep, you create a 1/1 flying rogue, fairy rogue, a token which you can buff, which you can sacrifice to do different things. As long as you're okay with losing a life every time, and you're able to like gain that life back, perhaps with gain life. This is a cool card that you can use to create tokens. Rock Colony, another infinite card. You have as many of these in your deck as you want. Pretty much like that's the whole theme of the deck is rats. There's one sorcery that puts X rats into play where X is the amount of rats you have, so that's devastating. Um, I think there's a rat out there that's like buffs up with each rat in play or something like that. But all in all, this is basically just almost every turn you're like putting out 2, 3 of these guys. They get more and more buffer. The only bad side is if you have anyone that has like removal cards that basically say rat colony. You can't cast these anymore in the game, or they're removed. There are like long ago, and there are some cards out there today that have like specifically removing like your entire cards with the same name, so you have to kind of watch out for that. Plus board wipe, but if you're just playing like a rush rat deck, this is one to have. Chandra's regulators, so this is specifically designed for the Chandra Planeswalkers that you use and play. So whenever you activate the loyalty of one of their abilities, it can you pay one and then it does it twice, which is awesome because specifically there's I think it's 7 loyalty. You do 10 damage to a player. You can activate it twice. That's 20 damage. It's pretty crazy. And then if you want, you could discard a mountain or a red card, and you draw a card if you don't like what your hand has to offer. So it's got a 2 active effect. It is legendary, so you can only have one of these in play, but still. Chandra's Triumph, a very good kind of removal card. Does 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker. If you got a Chandra planeswalker out, it does 5 instead. So, and it's cheap. Raptor Hatchling. So there's a combination you could do with a wand that I have here on my list, where you this creature takes damage and it creates a 3/3 trample. So what you want to do is you want to buff this up if you can with auras or equipment. So that way, if it gets damaged and survives, you're starting to create like multiple trample 3/3s, which is crazy if you get it that far. Bristly Bill Spine Sour. So this is a landfall legendary where whenever a land comes into play, you put a +1/+1 on it. But it has a secondary ability where you double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. So if you're doing a deck of counters on creatures, it's gonna maximize that whole deal for you. I got this guy up in one game to like 85, something like that. Survived somehow. The opponent couldn't get rid of it, and yeah, it just ran all over the opponent at that point. So um, probably not going to be staying in play as much as the opponent will find some kind of way to removal. But as long as it is, and you buff it up, dangerous card. Rage here, so whenever this is dealt damage, it puts 2 +1/+1 counters on it, much like the other enraged dinosaur that I showed you. This one puts counters on it. Same thing, if as longer it goes and longer it's allowed to grow, becomes crazily dangerous. Crazily is a word. Black Blade Reforged. Now this card is actually old. Can't remember what set it was, but it's been around since Legendaries actually became named Legendaries, because back in when Magic started, there were legendary cards. There were like gold creatures there that just they weren't called legendary yet. But I think they were more called like ancient something or other. This one is good for legendary creatures because you can equip 3, which is cheap, +1/+1 for each land you control, which can build up. Any other creature you equip, it does cost you 7. But hey, if you have the mana to spend, it's still an effective card for even the normalist creature. Lightning Greaves. Really love this card. This is quite an old one. Back when Shroud was a key word. Shroud essentially means hexproof. It's the same. Uh, so the only thing is, Shroud, you can't target that once this is on them. Where hexproof, the opponent can't target your creature or whatever you have it on that with anything. But if you put this on one of your creatures, you can't target that creature with anything else unless you remove this. Cool thing about this is it's cheap, costs 2, equip costs 0. Throw it onto a creature that you don't want to get screwed by like cards. Brilliant. This Steel Overseer is cool for just artifact creature decks. You tap it, you put +1/+1 on everything. See how long this creature lasts out there with this ability. But every turn or every time you tap them, you put 1/1/1 on everything. Buff up your guys. Pretty cool. Blue Sun's Twilight is a good card to gain control of a creature with hex value. So if there's a creature that's annoying the hell out of you, you pop this down, you grab it, it's yours. And what's cool, if you do 5 or more, you grab that creature, but you also make a copy of that creature. So 2 for 1, right? Game control decks I used to make like many moons ago. Um, yeah, it was fun. But the cards to gain control of creatures at the time were expensive. So yeah, Angel of Vitality, a really good card if you're building a deck that's life gain. You basically gain +1 life, and the secondary ability is as long as you have 25 or more life, she becomes a 4/4 flyer. Um, Resplendent Angel, a flying 3-drop 3/3 with it was really good. Beginning of each step, if you gain 5 or more life, you create a 4/4 angel with vigilance. Really good. And then you pay 6, and until end of turn, the creature becomes a 5/5 with lifelink. You can see where this is going as long as you keep using that ability. You pop out one of these flying vigilant angels. Pretty cool. So this is the card that I was referring to earlier about doubling up any cards that get milled. So you mill twice as many cards. This is a very good combination in a mill deck. Legendary, so you can only have one of these in play because that would be just insane. Twice and then twice on the stack would be pretty much game over. But this with the card Traumatize, game over. And Traumatize, trying to see where it is. Right over here, which I'll get to. Um, but deadly, no dick. Copy enchantment, pretty much as is. It copies any enchantment that you have on the floor. Very good. I did not add one card. Let me look here. Oh, that one there, and that one there, and that one there, that one there. Okay. I put them up there for some reason. I don't know. So with the copy enchantment, you do it to this one, Ghostly Prison. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2. So you have 4 of those. You copy 4 of those. It's insane. This guy here pretty much is a flyer 3/5, 4-drop. Uh, Basically is the same thing as this, except it's pay 1 to have to pay 1. So pretty much you can lock down an opponent with these kind of decks, and it's pretty much what I call the law deck or whatever, where you're pretty much using these type of cards where they have to pay X amount to attack with each creature. So you can really lock them down with this one. You use copy enchantment on this. You use a copy creature on this. And you use the Helm of the Host, which I'm going to get to, which basically is an equipment that attaches to this and basically starts copying it up before every combat. You get that combo going, and if by chance you get this 9-drop Arcan out, creatures can't attack you with flying. you're rolling in it. You're just lock the board down. Um, Obviously, an opponent will see what you're trying to do, and they'll try to do like destroy enchantments, destroy creatures, but you can make a pain in the ass deck with this. Uh, you just have to have like a balance too, where the white and blue where you have counter spells, or you can somehow bring back the enchantments or something like that. Um, I tested this out the deck with the blue and white there, and it's pretty locked down. Um, and it can be a very annoying deck to play against. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to our main list here because we got off track. So here's another copy enchantment, except at the start of your upkeep there, you can copy another enchantment instead of the one that this copied. So you can kind of maneuver it and have another become a copy of something else. Kind of an interesting mechanic there. You could use it in various ways. Mirror image, pretty much you play this and it becomes a copy of the non-legendary creature. Another copy enchantment there. You see where I'm going with this? If you have Ghostly Prison and a bunch of these copy enchantments in there, you don't necessarily need to have this because you're going to be looking at 12 cards, which is a lot. So you have the Ghostly Prison, this one, and this one. So you're pumping that enchantment out there. It's pretty nuts. Even like 8. Let's say you're just going with one of these copy enchantments. Even 8 ghostly prisons is devastating because each costs the opponent 2 per creature to attack you. So if you really want to be an ass like me, you have these in play, a lot of them, and then the person can't do anything unless they come up with a whole destroy all enchantments type of deal, which is possible. Another one that copies a non-legendary creature. So you're looking at with. I'll get to Helm of the Host soon. Where did I have it? Somewhere here. Uh, yeah, we'll get to it. So many cards. All right, the Skinner. So this is actually a new one that I picked up recently, which is pretty insane. So it can't be blocked. It's a 3-drop, which is decent. It's a 10-1. And if a source would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage, and mills that many cards. Now you could manipulate this wording so much. It's not just this creature that can manipulate the words there, but it's anything that deals damage to the player. So it can be sorceries, it can be enchantments, it can be creatures. Think about that. As long as this is in play, you can manipulate the damage mill deck how you want. Um, Pretty insane. Because when I first got this card, I thought I didn't read all of it, right? I thought, oh, this is the creature, it does 10 damage instead of the damage it mills it. But no, it's if a source you control would deal damage. Pretty nuts. Pretty nuts. If you're going for the mill sort of deal. This is my favorite Leanna, simply because she's cheap. Um, she can do -2, -1 to target creature. It can be yours or it can be the opponent's. So this is very good for getting rid of those chintzy little creatures that have only 1 toughness, like goblins. You get rid of them. But once you get to 7 and you put the emblem in play, starts making zombies. So makes some zombies, then doubles them up again. You can see where it starts to go. So opposing players will want to kill this fast before she gets to 7, obviously, because I know I would. Once you get that in there, like I played this against the computer. It was not the greatest, obviously, and it was funny as hell because I had the whole board covered in zombies and attacked. Got up to like 200 damage. That was fun, but that's not going to happen in a real game. You can get a horde to grow if you get lucky, but this is a really cool Planeswalker card just for getting a zombie horde out. Speaking of really cool cards, Dread Shade, 3 drop. I've always loved the shades. As long as your devotion is all black, you can grow this thing to be very, very large. You can do it on opposing turn. You can do it on your turn. Really cool. I this is rare now, but this shade wasn't actually rare in the older sets when this originally came out. This shade goes back long time, like earlier sets in the Magic history. Underwater Dreams, I believe this is like an older card too because they had something like this, but it was named different back in the day. That's really cool because whenever an opponent draws a card, so if they're drawing multiple cards, it does 1 damage per card draw. Cool if you get this out early and they start drawing cards. Get some early damage. Advocate of the Beast. So if you're making like a beast deck, perfect card to throw in there because at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on any beast you control, buffing them up. Grazing Glade Heart. So this one there is going back to the Arch Enemy days, for those that remember. Uh, this is 2012, I believe, when this came out. Um, and it's when a land comes in, you gain 2 life. Um, yeah, it's a little expensive, like a 3 drop there, but still, if you're able to get like lands out, you gain some life back. It's worth it. Um, Lone War Tribe, so a 3 drop for 3 mana. Okay, I'm for that. Especially if you're going to bring out like big beasts or big creatures. Obviously, you want some card like this that can give you lots of mana right away. Steel Leaf Champion, a cheap 3 drop, 5/4, and it can't be blocked by creatures with 2 or less. I mean, how good is this card? You want like a cheap, powerful creature right away until you can build up some bigger ones? This is definitely one of them. You could even throw like a trample effect on there or buff it up a little bit. That's a solid cheap drop, to be honest. Arcane Encyclopedia, it's a 3 drop. You pay 3, draw a card. Not the fastest way to draw cards, but if you're in a pinch, it works. Um, I throw in one. Uh, I don't throw in more than one because again, you're paying 3 and then you're paying 3 to draw. So yeah. Chaos One, a 3 drop. So you pay 4, target opponent exiles cards from the top of the library until they exile an instant sorcery card. So that could be a bunch of cards early that are exiled, which is cool. And on top of that, you can play that card without paying its cost. Then put the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of the library. So it's kind of like you're just taking a whole bunch of their top of their cards and going, oh, I'm going to play this, and then they get shoved on the bottom. What's cool about that, though, is even though they're going on the bottom, you may get rid of some of those annoying cards that the player has plans for you, and they're now kind of like on the bottom, right? So, Dark Steel Plate, a 3 drop, you can equip for 2, makes the creature indestructible. Cool. Especially if you're running like big creatures that you're just muscling your way through to the opponent. Why not? Right? Magistrate's Scepter, 3 drop. Now, this one is a little expensive to pull off, but if you have anything that can lower triggered abilities for mana costs, you're in good shape. But you pay for it, you put a charger counter on this artifact. As far as I know, there's not really anything that can double counters on non-creature cards. You see what I'm saying? So there used to be back in the day, and this card would be insane. Um, I remember there was like one card that removed all counters on a card, and there was a card that doubled all counters on the card. But as far as I know, they don't have anything like that yet. Um, so if they ever did, this card would be insane because you remove 3 charge counters, you take an extra turn from this artifact. And if there's a way you can untap this artifact, which there are, and there are enough charge counters on it, you do it before the end of your turn, you take another one. So you could have like a loop of sorts going. Very dangerous card, but at the current state it's at, redrop 4 to put a charger on. It's a slow burn, but still a decent card. I wouldn't throw in more than 1 or 2 unless you have a way to, as I said, to manipulate the counters on it. Um, Pristine Talisman, 3 drop, simply gain a life, and you can add a, I don't know what you call these, like symbols there, but there's a bunch of them. And there's especially the Eldrazi cards. Use this type of symbol to cast them and need them. But still, it's a good, card to gain life with. Retributive Wand. So this is the combination card you use with enrage creatures. So you pay 3, tap it, do 1 damage to any target, and you do damage to the enrage. It triggers their enrage ability, and it's a good combination there. What's cool about this is if the artifact's put into the graveyard, it deals 5 damage to any target. So when it blows up, you can potentially get rid of something that's annoying on the field. Sword of Body and Mind. This card actually goes back quite a bit in sets because the creature +2/+2 and protection from green and blue, which isn't too bad. But the satisfying part of the equip 2 here is whenever it deals damage to a player, you create a wolf token and mill 10 cards from their deck. So it's kind of got a create something and take away something effect. Urza's Incubator, this card I use for like any kind of deck that I'm making, like, I don't know, heavy casting creatures. So what's cool is you choose the type, like dragon, zombie, whatever, and those creatures cost 2 less. You have multiples of these and out, and it gets them out easier. Torment of Scarabs, the one of the best cards for just like minimizing rushes if it stays out there. It is a little expensive there, but if you have Dark Ritual and your opening hand with this, you get to turn 2, you can play it. So, if you have somehow multiples of these, it's putting the pressure on the player if they can't destroy it. You can see what it does there. Bloodletter of Alazos. Expensive card at 4, but if an opponent will lose life during their turn, meaning any life, whether it's lose life or damage, it, twice, twice as much of that instead. Cool card for if you're going for like just pure damage. So if you're doing like Lava Axe, that's 10, something like that, because Lava Axe initially does 5 plus times 2 is 10, or what have you. You definitely want to protect this thing because I doubt it's going to be out that long. You want to put Shroud on it or Hexproof. Um, you know, but good card for dishing out stuff. What's cool about this is that there is a bunch of black cards that the target player loses 3 life, you gain 3. And then there's one expensive card that does 3 and 3, and then 3 and 3 again. So you can see where that goes. Here's another Enrage. When this is hit with damage, deals 5 damage to a target creature opponent controls. You can kind of see the combination of the wand and this guy. Since it does 1 damage to him, it's not going to kill him. And then you can start picking things off if it stays that way. The Krenko Mob Boss, very cool for a Goblin deck. It is a 4-drop 3/3, but you tap him and you create X Goblins where Goblins or however many is in play. You could get a whole horde of Goblins, given that this guy stays out long enough. Cosmos Elixir costs 4. At the beginning of your step, you draw a card if your life total is greater, or you gain 2 life. So I like this card because it has like you gain life if your life is low, or you draw cards. So it is a 4-drop, but it is a nice card to have around. Golden Guardian. So he's a defender 4/4. However, if you fight another creature that has 4 or higher and it kills it, it comes back as a land, and you can use it as a land. And you see on the right side there, or you can start making 4/4 golems coming into play, which can end up being very dangerous. Helm of the Host is what I was referring to for those cards that are above. So, um, though especially for like any legendary like this, Helm of the Host, basically you attach it to that, and then at the beginning of combat, it makes a copy of that, but it's not legendary. So this can be for any legendary card you have that's cool. This is an amazing card. I've used it a lot for different types of situational decks. If there's a legendary that I really like, and having multiples of that creature is beneficial. You can only have one of these out at a time, but that's okay. I would run with 3 or 4 of them in your deck just in case somebody decides to blow this up. Phyrexian Processor. So if you have a lot of life and you're willing to give some of your life up, you can start pumping out very dangerous black minions here. As you can see there, when it comes to play, you pay X life, pay 4, and then that X minions you could summon. So let's say you give up 8 life, you create a 8/8 black minion. Pretty self-explanatory there. I wouldn't run that many, maybe 2 at most, because you are giving your life up if you're giving up like a lot. Run 4 if you're just going like 3/3, or you just want blockers, which is fine. But just remember, you have to give up life for this to actually work. Quicksilver Amulet. This is Dirty Pool. So it's a 4-drop amulet. You pay 4 and you put any creature card in your hand into the battlefield. This is so dirty. If people let this sit, you could put a Drazi out there and start pumping in the 15/15 whatever big creatures that like some of those creatures that you need, like sacrifice creature to as a bonus of the cost. That's irrelevant with this card. You just like those what are they, 6/6 demons, the black demons. You don't have to sacrifice nothing. You just pay 4 and you pop it into play. There you go. Dangerous card. If you're going kind of like with that kind of deck, run for them. Because when somebody sees that, they're going to destroy it. Just one thing though, do not have too many heavy costing cards and creatures in your deck. obviously, because then if they destroy this thing, it'll be useless, and you're sitting there with a handful of very expensive creatures that you can't play. So that's just one thing to obviously watch out for. Decree of Justice. So this is cool, where you pay X and you put X for four angel creatures with flying into play. You can use this as a cycle, and then if you do, you create a X amount of soldier tokens. So there's two different ways you can go about doing this. Either way, you're going to get tokens out into play, which is really neat. So I'm just going to move myself because we're getting to the end here. Um, Expensive card at 5, Gilded Lotus. However, it does give you 3 mana of any color. I would run 1, maybe 2, because it is costing you 5, but still it's good for getting mana to cast stuff. Mind's Eye, high cost, 1, maybe 2 in your deck. Or if you have the mana to spare, good card because whenever an opponent draws a card, you pay 1 and you draw a card, so it keeps your hand fresh. Chandra Flame's Fury, really cool planeswalker. She's my second favorite out of all the planeswalkers out there. Does 2 damage, and then the last one is deals 10 damage to target player. Remember that in the combination with that bat, the black creature that can do double damage. That's what I was referring to with this. You can basically see where that combination goes. Jin Gitaxias Progress Tyrant. Now, this card has been referred to from a couple of videos that I've watched on as a very dirty card. And yes, it is, because whenever you cast an instant artifact sorcery, it copies it. So that's anything. Copies. Obviously, choosing new targets. You can only do it once per turn. Uh, Whenever an opponent casts an history, all that stuff, you counter the spell. That only happens once per turn. So not only does it copy spells you put out, but it denies a opposing player one time during their turn of playing those kind of cards. Now, I haven't tried it with Helm of the Host because this card is very expensive unless you have a way of lowering that cost. Um, I don't know how it would work with a combination of Helm of the Host. So you have him in play of Helm of the Host. It does copy of him, but he's not legendary. How would the trigger work with that? Would it do it twice? I have not tried it. I will experiment with it. But because, again, this creature is expensive, that's the problem. Also, you know, expensive creatures like this, on them staying on the field for very long is very probably not. You may get it to trigger a couple times before it's blown up or what have you, or returned to hand or what have you. But it is a crazy, crazy card. Slap Hexproof or Shroud on there, sure. You got a chance of it staying in there for a little longer. Uh, but as far as Helm of the Host, or anything that makes a copy of it, because there is 2 blue copy card that copies legendaries, and that copy's not legendary. There's only one sorcery that does that. But Helm of the Host on the copy of this and the double trigger of what he does remains to be seen if it works or not. So let me know in the comments if it tried. At this point, I have not tried it. Star of Extinction, very expensive card, but kind of like a one shot on clearing the board. Destroys a land, that's irrelevant. Because by the time he plays this card, they'd have a billion lands out. But it does 20 damage to every creature and every planeswalker, annihilating everything on the board, including your own. It's kind of like a start fresh over. Very good late game. You better have some card drawn stuffs, or if you're low on cards in your deck, if you've been milled, make sure you have a way to shuffle your graveyard into your deck. This is a good card for late game to remove everything. Paladin Brady Sean. So as far as toxic cards go, because there's a bunch of them, Toxic 6 is crazy. If you manage to get this out on the field, it can't be blocked by creatures with 2 or less. Especially if you somehow put unblockable on it. I mean, the opponent only needs 10 toxic counters or poison counters, and then they're toasted. Obviously, this is a very powerful card right here. Triaxin Rex, another expensive toxic card, Toxic 4. It does have Ward 4, which is nice, and does have Haste. It cannot be countered, which is nice. It's an 8/8. It's a really good card, very expensive, but a really good card. The Ward helps there to keep it around a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, Captive Audience. Now, while this is a favorite card, it's very situational for using it. It's really good. So essentially, you put the enchantment in play, an opponent gains control of it, and then it starts to do its thing. So chooses one, so life total becomes 4. They discard their hand, or uh, you put 5/2/2 black zombie creatures tokens into play. Now, it is an expensive card and it's very situational. I wouldn't run with 4. Um, 1, maybe 2, just as kind of like a oof card that they have to get rid of, right? Um, Now, I have run 4 against the computer. That's really the only time you can have 4. I got all 4 out. It was hilarious because at that point, it was like they had no hand, and then the zombies started to pile up. It was just like funny as hell. But in a realistic game, it's just one of those cards where an opponent's like, I have to get rid of this, and they probably will. Um, because of its cost, it's just one of those like oomph cards just to surprise people. That's really all it is. That's why it's called Captive Audience. It's kind of like, ooh, ah. So yeah, those are cards that I have like kind of went through like all the colors and kind of like going, well, I really like this card, and kind of like collected all these of cards that I use more often than not. Some I don't, or I like, but I don't use too often. Like this card, Captive Audience, and Mind's Eye because of its 5-drop cost. Where there are other ways to get card drops, but um, yeah, there. Those are kind of like choices there. We maybe want to have some ideas for your deck, perhaps. Um, Let me know what you think of some of these card selections in the comments there. Give a thumbs up, and we'll catch you in the next video.